CNN is utterly failing at their job during the COVID pandemic and the economic crisis. So here they are, downplaying the need for stimulus checks and basically rushing to the defense of the establishment, both the Republican establishment and the Democratic establishment, because the establishment of both parties doesn't want stimulus checks, which is why the compromise bill has no stimulus checks. So let's see what they have to say.
Protection, a huge priority for McConnell. I want to ask you about Bernie Sanders and other progressives that are not happy with this stimulus package because it does not include stimulus checks. The same actually goes for Republican Josh Hawley of Missouri. But would that idea have enough impact on the economy that it would lead to ultimately spiking this bill altogether, do you think?
Well, I think the criticism is right in the sense that this $908 billion package is not enough to get the economy through the whole pandemic. And what's interesting is, as you mentioned, it's not just from the left. We heard Senator Josh Hawley say that he told President Trump that he thinks Trump should do the whole thing if stimulus checks are not included. But, the economists that I'm talking to, they say, listen, we don't know that stimulus checks are really needed right now. A lot of Americans would probably just save that money rather than spend it. And there's a lot of really good stuff in this package, including extending the unemployment benefits that I was talking about earlier, forgivable loans for small businesses, state and local aid from the federal government. And so, you don't want to just kill the whole bill because of that single issue. I mean, it's like if your house was on fire, you wouldn't turn away the one fire truck that comes up just because you think two are needed. You would take the help and hope to get some more.
Yeah, that's the idea. You can't let perfect get in the way of helpful or just good.
The job of the media is supposed to be to keep their eye on the powerful, keep the powerful in check, be a watchdog of the establishment, and do it on behalf of the American people. That's what the media is supposed to do. What they're doing here is the exact opposite. So you have criticism coming from the progressive wing, as well as, honestly, some more populist-leaning Republicans. Like Josh Hawley is saying he wants $1,200 stimulus checks as part of this deal. And instead of questioning the conventional wisdom, the status quo, the establishment's plan, what they do is they flip it and they're critical of those who are critical of the establishment. See what I mean? They're critical of those who are questioning the establishment. And so the media plays the role here of somebody who's trying to force you to take a half loaf, and really this isn't even a half loaf, this is a quarter loaf, if that. So they're the ones who are making the argument that this corrupt, watered-down piece of legislation is better than nothing. So they're basically the propaganda arm of the politicians. And actually, I don't even mean they're basically that. They are that. That's exactly what this is. Now, I should also note that the things he's saying there are just, like, there's a lot of stuff he said there that it's just absurd. So he talks about how, like, we don't, economists I've spoken to have said that we don't even need the stimulus checks. Really? Who? Name drop somebody. Who are you talking about? It's definitely some establishment hack who's doing the bidding of the Republican and Democratic Party. And they're towing that line. But like the idea that people don't need this money and they'll save it, what are you talking about? There's I just saw this yesterday. Nearly 12 million renters will owe $5,800 in back rent and utilities by early January. It's the latest alarming sign that millions of unemployed Americans can't pay for basic needs. Quote, this is like a Charles Dickens novel, utility director told me, and that's from the Washington Post. Nearly 12 million renters will owe $5,800 in back rent. Do they not need stimulus checks? What about the 28 million Americans who can lose their homes as a result of COVID? 28 million Americans. Just to put that in perspective, in the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession, it was only 10 million people. Only. I hate using the word only there, but relatively speaking, comparatively speaking, 10 million versus 28 million, that really does show you the scope of the crisis here. We're dealing with what is effectively a new Great Depression. Here's another fact that blew my mind. 40% of Americans have experienced food insecurity. 40% of Americans. And this, in part explains the situation where you got these food bank lines that are just never ending. They are as far as the eye can see because people can't pay the bills. And then on top of all that, America's billionaires increased their wealth by over $1 trillion, over $1 trillion since March. So you have this extreme concentration of wealth at the top, and you're exacerbating income and wealth inequality. So people to say they're struggling, that's an understatement. We need a new word to describe the kind of extreme struggle that people are going through. And in theory, the whole point of some sort of legislation from Congress should be economic stimulus for the American people. And what they're saying is, let's do an economic stimulus bill without stimulus checks. So the main point is now taken out. And why do you think it is taken out? Because really the main point to these corrupt corporatist cretins is the liability protection. So for those of you who don't know what that is, they want to make it so that you can't sue a corporation if you happen to contract COVID, either working at the place or shopping at the place. They want to protect them legally from lawsuits where they might have to pay out a lot of money to people who contract COVID at their business. So the real purpose of this is let's protect the corporations. Let's shield the corporations. They talk about how, this is going to increase small business loans. To some extent, I'm sure it will. But as we discussed with the original PPP program, over 50% of the funds went to big businesses when they were supposed to go to small businesses. So even the things that he's citing is here are the important parts of this bill, unemployment extension. Yeah, that's really important. But why is the number a lower number than it was previously? They reduced the number for unemployment. So every single thing that's supposed to be for regular people is watered down and cut. And all the provisions that are for corporations and the wealthy are beefed up. But it really is, it's beyond obnoxious to the point where it's downright silly that you have, top economic voices at CNN. I mean, that's this guy's title apparently, head economic writer or something like that, head business writer. And he's casually making the case that, we don't even really need stimulus checks because people probably save it anyway. They'll save the money anyway. That shows you he has no idea how extreme the pain and suffering and degradation and poverty is out there. He has no idea. Or he knows and he doesn't care. Because his whole point is to be a mouthpiece for the establishment. That's his whole point. It really, really, really is mind-boggling. Because they're doing what Trump does. What does Trump do? Trump just creates his own reality and then pushes it relentlessly. He's the ultimate postmodernist president because he'll just say something that he wants to be the case and then run with it and hammer it home nonstop. That's what CNN is doing here. She's totally making it up. Yeah, people don't even need stimulus checks. Excuse you? Yeah, I don't know. People don't even need it. I've concluded that. Why? Because I said it. That's why. Forget all the data points that point in the opposite direction. No, I don't think they need it. And so I'm going to say that they don't need it. And people probably just save the money and you don't even want that at this point in time. If this doesn't prove to you how shitty a job they do, there's nothing that will prove it to you. Because again, all of the empirical data is on the other side of this argument, and he just casually states it. There's no pushback either. What do they say? Oh, yeah, good point. And we got to make sure that, we can't have the perfect be the enemy of the good. Perfect? Perfect? No. An imperfect bill would be stimulus checks, but at a lower number. You're giving people $800 or something. That's imperfect. That's just good. We're talking about a bill that doesn't do the main thing that it, in theory, should be for. It's like having a healthcare bill and saying, we have no healthcare provisions in our healthcare bill. Then maybe it's not really a healthcare bill. That's exactly right. They're so bad at their job. And I should be thanking them because from a selfish perspective, this is great for outlets like mine. Now, granted, am I a direct competitor of the likes of CNN? No, because I'm an opinion guy as well. I'm more of like just a political commentator, talk format, open forum. I say whatever the hell I want. So granted, I'm not in like the hard news business. But it is kind of crazy how they do such a bad job that even like opinion people on YouTube who are idiots with loud mouths, like we look better. We come out looking better. Everybody in this space comes out looking better. It's not because we're so good. It's because they're so bad. They really have their top economic voice in a situation like this arguing, yeah, stimulus checks, I don't know. I was told they're not even necessarily needed. Oh my God. It's also possible he's just dumb, right? Like that's a possibility too. I mean, you tend to think of it more in like the Noam Chomsky manufacturing consent kind of way where like he believes everything he's saying, but that's why he's in the position he's in is because he's not going to rock the boat. But these are also his real opinions. So I guess you could say it's a mix of both. The filtration process works. We're like, Wolf Blitzer is the person who's on air 87 hours a day. This guy's the top economic voice. And the reason he's in that position is because they know he's not going to say something like, oh my God, we need stimulus checks. We need them now. We needed them yesterday. We needed them 5 months ago. He's not going to say that. So that's why he's in this position. So yeah, it's a little bit of both, I guess. It's the position, the system that got him to where he is corrupt, but also he's just not that bright. And he doesn't realize it. It's like Chuck Todd. Like Chuck Todd somehow thinks he's some sort of mega genius when he's the dimmest, dullest, silliest, most ridiculous person for that job on Meet the Press. Like obviously he's just not that bright, but he thinks like, yes, I'm here because I'm so talented. It's a meritocracy and I really have worked my way up. No, you're the least threatening. You're the one who will rock the boat the least. You're the one who will not point out the various contradictions in the system. You're the one who will not stand up on the side of the American people. Again, it's the old saying, we need the media to be a watchdog of the powerful, not a lapdog of the powerful. And this is the media being a lapdog of the powerful. So, I can't believe they said that. Even for CNN, this is out of this world. CNN thinks people don't need stimulus checks. Also, that shows you the class that they're in. Like, they really are elites running in elite circles. Because them and their buddies, they don't need stimulus checks. It's just regular people who need them. And they're not really in contact with regular people a lot now, are they? Devastating. I mean, this is journalistic malpractice, but they think they're actually doing a good job.